What's going on, everybody? Strike City DMV here to give you a video for the co-anglers. All the co-anglers out there like myself. I've been getting a lot of inquiries basically asking about tournament fishing, what to do as a co-angler, what to expect, what to bring, what's acceptable, what's overkill. So anybody knows me know that I will share any information. I'm not a information hoarder. I can't stand that. I'm here to help grow the sport. This is one of the greatest sports in the world, in my opinion. And any information I have, I'll share it. I don't even care. You come to me in a tournament. If I've placed well or won, I'll tell you exactly what I was doing, what I was throwing, and where I was throwing it. Because for me, I don't get anything out of holding information. Some people do, but for me, it's all about helping and sharing others. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Helping others and sharing information with others, because, that's how I, have progressed and matured as an angler, is because other people that had way more experience than me, professionals, semi-professionals, whatever you want to call it, they've shared information with me. If nobody ever shared any information with me, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be able to have a clue about what to do. So I'm always going to share. And just because you share with information, it doesn't mean that I can tell you exactly where to go, what bait to throw, how to throw it, what to retrieve. It doesn't mean that those same fish are going to bite. It doesn't mean that you're going to catch a fish. Fish are very temperamental. They move around, as you all know, and that's just what it is. You can go there, the same spot, and zero out. And then the next day you can do the same thing and catch a limit in 2 minutes. It's just how it is. But anyway, prior to my last 2 tournaments, actually, we're getting some messages about, people fishing their first tournaments for the first time as a co-angler. So I am going to give you a good synopsis of what to do, what to bring. I'm working on a project. Anybody know me? I'm a project person. That's the Marine Corps project manager. In me, I like projects. I'm working on a co-angler. I'm thinking about. Actually, not thinking about it. I'm actually pondering it, thinking about it. I'm almost to the point where I'm gonna put it to action, but it takes funds, and right now I got a lot going on. But I am gonna do it. But I'm thinking about getting a softback book put out, basically a co-angler manual that'll go into further detail about what I'm about to talk about today. So I'm thinking about running a Kickstarter campaign for that. So I'll leave more information about that in the next progressing videos, down the line, and I'll have links and stuff like that. If you guys will be so gracious to donate $1 or $2 for this Kickstarter, and I'm gonna try to get a good paperback book out, and I'm gonna find the proper channels to get that all good to go and published and put out there. But because I have a lot of information, I can't just capture it all right here, or this will be a 2-hour video. But I'm gonna give you a truncated version of what to expect. Actually, let me take this hat off. A little hot, just got in from the gym. So, number 1, what to take on a tournament as a co-angler. A lot of people ask how many rods is acceptable. So for me, first things first, organization is the key to being a successful co-angler, in my opinion. So as you see, these are my rods. I have rod socks. These are the rod gloves, rod socks that I got from Tackle Warehouse. I got 1 or 2 from Lose, and I have rod straps to secure them together, kind of clinch them together. They're not so tight that they're crushing my eyelids, but I normally keep one right here, about 2/4 of the way from down, and I got another one 2/4 of the way from the if you can see it here, from the butt. I'm saying buttstock like I'm talking about a rifle in the Marines. From the base, about another 1/4 of the way up from the base of the reel. So normally I keep 2 of those, and I keep rod socks, and it pretty much keeps me organized. And what I have found is, generally speaking, 4 to 6 rods is all you need. I don't try to go more than 6 rods. Normally my combination is 4 bait casters and 2 spinning, or depending on the lake, if it's a very, very finessey type lake and it's a hard bite, fish are fairly small, then I'll roll with 3 spinning rods and 2 bait casters. So that's pretty much my setup right there. Another thing, your bag, your tackle bag. I run get this for you. I run an Okuma. It's a tackle bag. It's an Okuma tackle bag. Got it from Tackle Warehouse. I'll try to make sure I put the link in the description below. Hell of a bag. Very sturdy. Very durable. It's got 2 compartments. You got a top half and you got a bottom half. The back half of it is padded and it's very ergonomic, so that it's not putting a lot of stress on your back. Straps are padded. They're very durable. Just an all-around good bag, and it's only 59 bucks. Only 59 bucks. I've told a bunch of people about it, and a lot of people have got it, and they've had success with it. I've had great success with it. It's one of the better bags I've ever had, to be honest with you. So let's set this right here. But yeah, getting back to the rods, 4 to 6 rods is all you basically need to be fairly efficient on the water. Less is always better, but typically what I found is the average, and this is just my personal experience, what I've been used to, but not everybody, has a 22 footer. Actually I can only think about once in my lifetime that I fished on a 20 footer, and about a handful of times that I fished on a 21-foot bass boat. The average person has about, I would say a 19-foot bass boat. Most 18, majority, I say if I had to average it out, 19 footer. So with an 18, 19 footer, especially with an 18-foot bass boat, it's still a good size, but you're only going to have X amount of space on that left side to strap your rods down. And depending on what type of boat, sometimes those little holes for the rod holders, you can get 2 or 3 up top, kind of like it right here. Then you got another 2 or 3 down here, and you have to position them in a way that they're not crushing each other. Then there's another strap back there to help you strap it to the kind of the back side of the boat, or the stern of the boat, I should say. So like I said, that 4 to 6 rods should keep you in a fairly comfortable range, so that you're not fumbling everything, because you're going to be throwing different baits. You're going to have lines everywhere. Your lines are going to get tangled up, and you're going to spend a lot of time trying to get stuff untangled if you have 7 or 8 rods. And it's always good just to have 4 to 6 rods. All right, getting into my tackle. All right. Oops. It's all good. Dropped my poles. But as you can see, I'll put this camera down. Dropping everything. As you can see, my Okuma bag has 1, 2, 3, and 4 spots. These are my boxes that contain all my hard baits. So the first thing I would have, or one of the first things I would have, is a terminal tackle box. I would highly advise having a terminal tackle box. You're gonna break off. You're gonna need extra jig heads, drop shot weights, swim bait hooks, shaky heads, football heads, bobber stops, different type of hooks, 2-aughts, 3-aughts, 4-aughts, flipping hooks, Ned rigs, you name it, whatever, slider heads, swim baits, hooks, just whatever, different sizes. This is pretty much my terminal tackle box, and this pretty much gets me what I need to have. So first thing, I will have a terminal tackle box. No matter what type of system you have, make sure you have terminal tackle, because you want to get in a situation where you break off and you don't have anything to replace it with. Secondly, I'm a big jig guy. You know, jigs win tournaments flat out. I keep jigs, a bunch of jigs. So here's my jigs. I keep an assortment of green pumpkins, an assortment of black and blues, assortment of peanut butter and jellies, watermelons, brown and blacks, browns, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And I have them all varied from 5/16, half ounce, 3/8. Some have rattles, some don't. It just depends on the situation itself. All right. Next, I got a box of crankbaits. Crankbaits consist of my rattling baits, my square bills, my rattle traps, my Livingston, my Spros, my wiggle warts, my shad wraps, my 1 minuses, my I can't even get it out. My help me out here. Mega Bass, S cranks. These is you know, my Strike Kings. You know, everything. Red Eye Shads, rattle traps, live targets. I keep all of that. All of my lipless and divers and short and, you know, fairly shallow divers go here. All right, and depending on the next box is kind of like my wild card box, and the wild card box, it just depends on the season, really, to be honest with you, and what type of lake you're going to. My wild card box, it could be, if it's top water season, you have your top waters. If it's not top water season and you're going to maybe a clear lake like I did in the beginning of the year, you know, maybe you have jerk baits. But the last box is a wild card box, and I just got some of my favorite, if I can find the pop to open it up, the clips, whatever. Some of my favorite top waters. You know, I got frogs, I got spooks, I got poppers, I got I can't even get it out. Whopper ploppers and my favorite color perch. Just that type of stuff. Pop-Rs. Yeah. So basically, that is how I organize my hard baits. That's all you really need, to be honest with you, as far as from a hard baits perspective. All right. Secondly, the top part, top compartment. This is going to be your bread and butter. I'm not going to take everything out because I got a bunch of stuff in here. But unzip it. As you can see, I got a bunch of bags of soft plastics. That's where all my soft plastics should go. I've got, you know, soft plastics on top of soft plastics on top of soft plastics. You know, that's, as a co-angler, soft plastics is going to be your best friend. Make sure you have an assortment of soft plastics. That is going to be your best friend. I'm not going to take everything out. As you can see, this fits a lot. Got Robo Worms, Yamamoto Senkos, Zoom Finesse Worms, Trick Worms, and I got a couple wild card bags of stuff that has stuff that won't necessarily fit in a compartment. So this is gonna be your bread and butter box, as I'm gonna say. Your bread and butter box is gonna be your soft plastics. Top part, like I said, I've got so much stuff in there. I'm not even gonna go through everything. But as a co-angler, soft plastics are gonna be your best friend. You always want to make sure that you're prepared as a co-angler. Don't expect your boater to have anything additional for you. Don't be the one to not be prepared. Always be prepared. I try to prepare, you know, to the level of, you know, somebody like just professional. That's how I approach it. I like being prepared. I'm over excessive with that. I try to be more prepared than even my boater every time. That's what I pride myself in. Another important critical thing as a co-angler, you see here on the side here, you want to have your culling beam. So I just got a loose culling beam, as you can see right here. So you catch a fish that's pretty much cookie cutter. Hook them up, hook their lips up to this part right here, And this coal will basically balance out. Whichever is the heaviest fish, it's gonna lean to left or right. Whichever one's the lightest fish, you take them off, you release them, and you're good to go. Secondly, you're gonna have a tournament measuring board. This is just a Bass Pro Shops measuring board. You can pick them up there. I think it's about, I don't know, 10, 12 bucks or something like that. But pick one of those up so that you have it. A lot of times in the earlier part of the years, in the earlier part of the year, that's critical because in the warmer months after June, the size limit, I'll just give you the example up here. The size limit for the Potomac River up here is 15 inches right now. However, after June 15th, the size limit goes down to 12 inches. So that's what you want. You want to always have that. Oh, forgot something very important as well. In these smaller pockets right here, I either have my GoPro batteries or something, additional right here. Any type of accessories go here. But a lot of co-anglers avoid this, and they don't, they really don't think about this. But you want to make sure you have some fish care products for live well. What do you do after you catch the fish? Okay, well, the name of the game is preservation. You want to keep your fish alive to get to the weigh-in. I always use G-juice, or there's other things that you can use, but I always drop a couple drops before we even blast off. So in the morning when the live wells is open and they're doing boat check, I put a couple in my live well, on my side of the live well. And a lot of times for me, just as a courtesy, I'll ask the boater, hey, do you want me to put a couple drops of G-juice on your side? If he says yes, cool. I drop a couple drops on his side too as a courtesy. If he says no, I'm good, cool. He may not use it, but I strongly suggest communicating with your boater. It's all about communication. Don't assume anything. Don't dip and die in there. I keep hand sanitizer, yada, yada, yada. All right. In the front part of my box, I keep cold tags. Actually, here's some more hand sanitizer. I don't need two, so I can put one of them up here. But I keep my cold tags in here. I think I keep my fishing license in one of these zipper pockets, and I keep a little bit of extra leader line in here. But as you can see, I'm not gonna pull them all out. But yeah, that's what I got there. And on the side pockets, I got my Bang garlic fish attractant, which I need to find the top because I don't want this stuff to get everywhere because it pretty much will stink up the whole house. But keep my garlic or whatever in that side. And to be honest, that is pretty much all you need to be successful, to be a successful co-angler. Obviously, you have to do your due diligence and do your homework and know what's going on. If you're fishing tidal water, know the tide times. Don't expect your boater to know. Don't expect him to have a tide function on his graph. You need to know yourself the tides and what time they turn. A lot of times what I do, I'll just go on tides.net for me around here in the Potomac, if I'm fishing the Potomac or wherever, and I'll just screenshot the tide table, and it shows me when it changes, what time is high tide, what time is low tide. I'll memorize it to a certain extent, but I want to know what time it changes because bass bite differently as you get deeper or later into the tide or earlier. It just depends on what your experience is. What else can I get to? Gas. Something else that a lot of co-anglers ask me, and they're fairly uncomfortable. There's nothing to really be uncomfortable about. The general rule of thumb is to you're gonna split half the fuel cost for the day. Now let me go into detail about that because if you're not careful, boaters will try to. Some boaters, not all boaters, for majority of the boaters that I fish with and have fished with over the years, hasn't been a problem. They've been pretty good. And I haven't had any problems because they kind of know that I'm squared away and I know my stuff. I'm not some rookie. But for the people that have never fished anything, this is what you want to realize. All right, say example, a guy has a 20-foot bass boat that he filled up before the tournament, and it's $100 to fill his tank up, right? Okay, you blast off with him. You make a run of 5 minutes, 2 runs all day of 5 minutes apart. So when you get back to and you fish within 10 minutes of the boat ramp, within sight of the boat ramp all day, right? You come back to the boat ramp. Just because that boater he filled up in the morning with $100 for his tank doesn't mean you have to give him $50. You give him half of the fuel that you guys burned that day. So you're gonna have to kind of use your estimation. So if you feel like you guys only used $10 worth of gas, then it's half of that is $5. But what I do if it's a situation where it's that small of an amount, the least I've ever given somebody was $12, and that's because what I started to think about was, okay, he probably had a ramp fee of about $5 or so. Most of the time, it's no more than $5 to $6 for a ramp fee, and we only made 2 runs of 10 minutes total. So that's another $5 or so right there. So what I would do, I just $12, $10 to $12 or whatever, and you're good to go. That's what I would do, because you don't have to give him half of his tank because you guys didn't do anything. Now, if you were making runs all over the river, 35, 45-minute runs, and you feel like, gosh, we burned at least, an hour or 2 hours worth of gas. He started at a full tank, now he's at a half. Well, if he filled up at $100, $110 or whatever, and we burned half of that tank, that's between $55 and $60. So you're gonna give him, at least $25. The most I've ever given a boater was $30. So, and that's because we ran all over the river, and I'm fine with that. If we're just sitting in, for you all that's around here in my area, if we launch from Smallwood State Park and we sit in Mattawoman Creek all day, there's no need to give them $25, $30 because we only made a 4-minute run. We fished the creek all day. So that's one thing co-anglers need to realize. And lastly, don't keep, like Gerald Swindle says, one of my favorite fishermen, always keep a positive mental attitude. You're going to have boaters that say, oh, I just don't know what to do, I'm not on them, yada, yada, yada. Or you're going to have you may run across some jerks that just be like, oh, you're here just to accompany me, or you're just a guest. You're not a damn guest. You're not, you paid money just like him. He's not a professional, just like you're not a professional. You're both amateurs. The only thing that separates him that day is he has a boat. That's it. You're paying your money, he's paying his money, and you treat each other with respect. I haven't had any type of difficulties. I don't play that stuff, but treat each other with respect. Communicate with your boater. Don't cast over his head. That's like one of the number one things. Cast to the side. Cast to the sides. Do not ever cast over his head. That's just the automatic no. Don't do that. And if you don't know how to net fish, let them know you don't know how to net fish. Just be honest with them. And if you do, you're good. But for the most part, those are pretty much the things that will keep you pretty squared away. And boaters will appreciate that. Always, communicate with your boater, and I think you will be successful. You won't have any problems as long as you're communicating with your boater. As a co-angler, you just have to remember, you can fish anywhere on the boat except the front deck. Back deck, sometimes guys get into a flipping contest and you can't possibly make a 30-foot flip from the back of the boat, and the boater, sorry about that, guys, battery died on me, but I was talking about flipping. Now, as a co-angler, I hear the term, oh, did he backboat you? To me, there's no such thing as a backboat. For me, the only way to keep me from catching fish is to not have me in the boat. I don't care who you are, what are you doing. I'm gonna catch fish regardless. It's not. If I don't catch fish, it's not gonna be because of the boater. Like that's not an excuse good enough for me. And that's just how I live and my confidence level. There's no such thing as this backboarding thing. So don't feed into that negative perception that it is. You go out there with every mindset that you're gonna do the best you can. You're gonna try to place and get a check and win or whatever your goals are. And you keep that positive mental attitude. You keep that mindset, and you're gonna be successful. But I was talking about positioning yourself in the boat. Don't at co-anglers, they just think that we fish from the back of the boat is fish from the front. Yeah, that's fine, but know the rules in depth. As a co-angler, you cannot fish the front of the boat. You can fish the back of the boat. You can also fish the middle of the boat. A lot of co-anglers don't utilize that. If a guy is flipping and he's got himself positioned in the best position so he can make that cast or flip, that perfect flip, don't get discouraged. Adjust yourself. You don't have to sit there in the back of the boat and try to make a 60-foot flip and he's making a 5-foot flip. You move to the center of the boat, preferably, depending on how he's positioned, by his steering. I will move quick to the front, to the middle of the boat. I'll either be, depending on where the structure is and how we're angled, I'll either be to the center of the boat to the left or the center of the boat to the right by the steering wheel. And that way, if I'm really trying to flip, I can, and I need to get to some of those sweet spots on that visible cover, I'm gonna flip from that angle. I'm not gonna limit myself by trying to make a 65-foot flip back there. I don't care who you are. You're not gonna be as accurate. The closer you are, the better you are. Also, don't get discouraged. If you don't feel comfortable moving, make an adjustment on the fly. As my boy Angler Marv says, make adjustments, no excuses. What I've done several times, if he's flipping, perfect position, fine, let him flip. You can't flip from the back of the boat, or even maybe you just have a hard time flipping in general. Tie you on something that is high percentage that you can throw under that bait, that you can cast and get deep up underneath that dock, same with the same trajectory as the boater. I've had some of the best tournaments I've had has been where my boater has positioned himself perfectly on a laydown to the point where he was flipping and I could not get to it the way I wanted to, no matter where I was at on the boat. So what did I do? I tied on a chatterbait and wing it under the dock, passed all the way through the dock on the other side, and I caught all of the strike zone from behind it, the middle, and the front, and ended up catching a lemon or catching big bass or catching a monster or whatever, catching a solid fish. And you'll know when you're doing your thing, because your boater sometimes, depending on who he is, he'll give you that look like dude, what are you doing? Or a lot of times it's this unspoken thing like it's you against him. You're not fishing against each other. You're on a team to a certain extent. Early on in the morning, if my boater is flipping, I'm going to throw a moving bait. If he's throwing a moving bait, I'm going to flip or throw a bottom bait. I try to do the opposite to try to figure out what's what. But 90% of the time, I've got a feel for what to do. And it may be that we're just doing the same thing, and that's fine too. But if you don't have a clue of what to do, start out by doing the opposite so you can figure out what's what, or do what you feel is right. Work to your strength. So that's what I do. You're not fishing against your boater. Y'all are working together as a team and treat it as such. If you get a boater that kind of, he's just, I don't know what you want to call it. He's just funky, from he's just personality is just kind of funky. Then, just do your thing. No problem. You're not here to be the guy's friend. You're not here to be buddy, chummy. You're here to do a job. You're here to cash a check. And you treat it as such. It's work. You go to work. So that's pretty much it. Anybody else have any questions, email, Instagram, whatever, direct message, YouTube. You send me a message 90% of the time. I'm trying to answer everybody because I like it when I reach out to a pro on YouTube and they respond. And a lot of them do, to be honest with you. That's why I say fishing is one of the greatest sports in the world, because you can reach out to them directly and they respond. They're just regular guys just like you and me. They fish 100% of the time for a living. But a lot of times they're down to earth guys. They're good guys. I haven't met I can't think of any time where I've met like just a straight up jerk. You know, I've met some guys that just naturally are introvert, and that's fine too. You know, I can work well in any situation. You know, that's just the Marine Corps of me. We make it happen. Period. So I'm not gonna hold you. That's a lot. That's enough. Like I said, I'll probably get a book, a softback book, nothing too spectacular, but a softback book with a lot more information that goes in depth about how to react in certain situations, what to do. You know, the mind games that some boaters may or may not play. The mindset that you should be in as a co-angler. So, you know, that's pretty much it. Tight lines to everybody, and see you next time. Also, guys, I forgot one thing. Please be on the lookout for Strike City t-shirts. I'm going to have Strike City apparel coming, and as I said in my last video, I'm going to be pumping this because, again, former veteran of the Marine Corps, Operation OEF, OIF veteran, helping wounded warriors is something that I'm very passionate about, and being here in the Maryland area, Walter Reed Medical Center is pretty much right around the corner, and I want to raise some money to help fund some of my projects, but I want to raise a decent amount of money so that I can go and present a nice check to Walter Reed Hospital so that they can present that to the wounded warriors, because it's a lot of guys that really gave it up for the country and us to be able to go out here and bass fish and stuff like that. And for me, that hits home because I met a lot of guys. I've been overseas, I've been to Iraq, all that good stuff right after 9/11, and that hits home for me. So I'm not gonna stop until I get a decent amount of money, and part of the t-shirt money, it's only gonna be like $10 for t-shirts, you know, Strike City t-shirts, and I'm gonna give a good portion of that to Wounded Warriors. And I hope to, I would love to do it on camera with YouTube. So I don't know the procedures for Walter Reed Medical Center, since it is federal government. You may not be able to bring a GoPro, but I'm going to work with the manager of the Wounded Warrior program to maybe do something outside or in a certain closed off area, or whatever their protocol is. I want to capture it on YouTube so you guys can actually see what the proceeds from you buying the $10 t-shirts go to. But again, thank you for listening. Tight lines.